It's Tuesday and it's time for Falcon Focus. Welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus, episode number 8 here in season number 4. It's a NAC tournament special. In segment number 2, we focus on women's volleyball. They begin their quest for a NAC tournament championship on Thursday here inside the John Book Fieldhouse. And I'll be joined by assistant coach Kaylee Erdman, a Concordia alum, just part of the 2016 volleyball team that was inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame. But up first, our focus, men's soccer, and they begin their quest for a NAC tournament championship coming up on Wednesday out at Fitting Field against Benedictine, being joined by head coach and Concordia alum, that being John Saleska, back for his 4th season at the Falcons helm. Coach, thanks for your time, and what a season it has been so far, and hopefully the best is yet to come. But when you look at what is a 10-3-4 regular season, 7-2-3 in conference play, how do you go about summarizing this regular season?
That's a great question, Matt. A lot of emotions, kind of a roller coaster the last few weeks. I know at home I wasn't always the most pleasant person to be around as we were experiencing the ups and downs. My wife got on me and told me not to take it home, and I did my best. Just an exciting end to the conference season. The guys worked so hard. I was really proud of them sticking with it to the end, and they kind of got their reward.
What a turn of events last week. Sunday night, it came out after what was a Concordia-Chicago, Concordia-Wisconsin 1-1 draw. It came out that Concordia-Chicago used a player that should have been ineligible for that matchup due to yellow card accumulation, and so all of a sudden, what was a tie goes as a forfeit win for Concordia-Wisconsin. Changed the whole landscape when you look at what was at stake for that final day of the regular season. But what was your reaction upon getting news that all of a sudden, hey, instead of getting 1 point, you get 3 points for that game?
At first, it was just cautious optimism and disbelief. Everyone tracks that so carefully. You want to let your players know ahead of time if they're getting close to that limit. It's not something I usually look at for other teams, and when the report came in that someone had noticed that and reported it, I was surprised. And we went back through the stats and realized that it seemed like, according to the websites, that was accurate. And sure enough, it ended up going down as a forfeit.
All of a sudden, the Falcons went from being on the outside of the NAC tournament to a chance to win the regular season championship and winning that regular season championship. But how about for the guys, the players themselves? It was a tough 1-1 draw on that Saturday after Concordia-Chicago got a late goal. How did morale change upon getting news that, hey, all of a sudden, hey, the outlook's a lot better than it was going into Monday?
Right, and just to clarify, we still had a way in after the Concordia draw, and we were kind of looking at results, and we would have made it in if we had, the results had went to they did, even with that result being a tie. But obviously the emotions were much, much different. It went from a little bit of just disappointment, because we knew the situation. We knew if we won our last 3, we had a great opportunity to win conference. Give up the goal with a minute left, kind of a deflected shot outside the box that just left the keeper with no opportunity. That was a very tough way to lose that game after overall playing a pretty good match. So that disappointment went to kind of excitement and optimism, and we understood the position we were in. We talked about playing for a conference championship before the game, and the guys really responded and took that to heart.
And they did that. 4-1 victory against the Lakeland University Muskies up at Lakeland on Wednesday. Again, I'll ask you and use the word reaction. What was your reaction upon, sitting there? Not only did the team take care of business, but then the ball bounced the Falcons' direction in other games, and you guys are regular season conference champs.
Yeah, exactly. We had looked at those games ahead of time and knew, judging on past results, that it wasn't we didn't need some wild results to be conference champions. Just looking at the teams, every team that was playing had the capability to beat each other, and we had seen that all year long with how tight the conference was overall. You look at the top 8 or so teams separated by something like 4 points, and those teams were good and strong, and we just needed the balls to go into the right goals, but it was not out of question. So I wanted to make sure the team understood that we're not sitting here looking for a miracle. We just need to take care of our business and then wait and see, because everything is lining up the way we need it to.
You've been a part of other regular season championships for Falcon soccer as a player in your coaching capacity. Everyone is special, but how does this regular season championship maybe compare or differ from some of the previous championships?
What makes this one different and special is how tight the conference was this year. And to come out on top makes this unique. I've been a part of this conference as a player and a coach for a long, long time, as you know. I've never seen a year like this where the top 8 or 10 or whatever it was teams were separated by so few points. So I know the roller coaster we were going through, I guarantee everyone was going through that this year. So for us to be able to stick with it, to play through adversity, to overcome some of the obstacles we had, whether it was injuries, whether it was sickness, whether it was late goals by teams, just great goals, in some cases a little bit unfortunate goals, in other cases it just shows the character of the young men we have on the team, and when they step on the field, how hard they work, and they earn this.
When you include the forfeit that goes down as a win, it's 5 straight wins now for the Falcons going into the NAC tournament. I got to believe you're pleased with the way the team's playing, at least, when you look at results going into this tournament.
Absolutely. I think this the way we ended this season is incredibly impressive. We've been focusing on some different things in training over the last 2 weeks to tighten up our defensive record. And while we've still given up some goals, the type of goals we're giving up are very, very different from we were early in the year. Some of the goals we're giving up were just silly mistakes by us, and we've cut out those kind of goals. And we've still been giving up goals, but credit to the teams we've been playing against. They've been some outstanding goals that have been scored against us. We were talking in our office the other day. We wonder how many of those goals are going to be the goal of the year for the teams who are playing against us. I can look at both of Marion's goals were outstanding. Rockford's goals against us were outstanding. Lakeland's goal against us on Wednesday was unbelievable. I mean, the guy just absolutely hammered it from outside the 18, put it in the upper corner. So those kind of goals, sometimes you just have to take your hat off and say, that's a great play by a great player. But we stuck with it. We're able to battle back right after the Lakeland goal to tie it 1-1. We scored off the kickoff and went right back up 2-1. So again, that shows the character and the work ethic of our guys and how badly they wanted this opportunity. And that's what they did. They put themselves in a position to get fortunate bounces, and that's where we ended up.
Let's recap some of the more recent action for Falcon men's soccer and testing your memory a little bit. Going back to October 15th, it was senior day. Last home matchup, that was against Dominican, a 1-0 victory in which Ivan Cuellar, he scored the lone goal in the 7th minute. Defense did the rest thereafter in protecting that lead. Shots were at 9-7 Dominican. What was the difference that day?
I think the emotion that our seniors showed. We had a lot of them on the field. They were announced at halftime. I put the burden on them before the game and said, this is your season. This is your team. If you want this to go the way we talked about at the beginning of the year, this is a game you need to step up in. And we came at them early, put them under pressure, got the goal. And from then on out, the game played out how we wanted it to play out. We were able to force them to serve from areas of the field that we didn't feel were dangerous, win the first and second balls in the air, and then counter very effectively. We had 1 or 2 goals called off for offsides. We had some great chances, that kind of thing, to make it 2-0. And I felt like our chances in the second half were kind of a product of the way that tactically that we set up, and they kind of played into what we were hoping they would.
It's always an emotional battle between the Falcons and Dominican. Move ahead to October 19th, knocked off Edgewood by a 5-1 score. And I thought this game was pretty indicative of the way this team can play. 5 different goal scorers.
We've seen that all year, whether it's defenders, midfielders, forwards stepping up. We don't have a system that really lends itself to one guy scoring a lot of goals. We try and put great players in positions to create and score goals, and we've seen that this year come to fruition in a number of games. So while individual stats aren't impressive, our team stats show that you can't go into a game and say, if we take this player away, we can stop Concordia, Wisconsin. You have to focus on the whole team because any one of our guys can beat you on a given day.
We touched already on the 1-1 tie that now goes to the win against Concordia, Chicago from October 22nd. So, again, looking at Wednesday at Lakeland, at 4-1 victory. And you mentioned it. Okay, Lakeland ties the game at 1, but you guys come right back 21 seconds later and scored. That seems to be a microcosm of the season, too, where if you have a lead and their team is able to find that equalizer, you guys more often than not have found ways to respond this season.
Yeah, we have a very senior-heavy team, a lot of upperclassmen who have been there before, and they've come through tough circumstances in the past. You can look at that North Championship we won during the COVID year 2 years ago. That, again, showed a lot of character. Won that game in overtime against MSOE at their field. So, again, these guys have been there. They've seen it. They're not rattled when a player at Lakeland scores just an amazing goal after we've worked so hard and has chances to make it 2 or 3-0, to watch them on one of their first shots of the game, hit a screamer. That can put your head down. You can start yelling at each other, you're arguing, get on each other, and suddenly the game goes in a different direction. But we didn't see that at all. Right off the kickoff, we pushed the ball into their box, got a fortunate bounce, and it was in the back of the net, and you could see their heads go down instead. And I think that's what that senior leadership really brings to a team.
You mentioned parts of the offense already with now 38 goals, 15.2 shots per game of an average. How would you assess the way the offense has been producing this year? Again, a collection of guys producing.
A few years ago, we made a conscious change about the way that we tried to attack. We stopped valuing the number of shots and started valuing the quality of shots. So I think if you look back a few years ago, we're taking fewer shots than we did. But the areas of the field we're shooting from are much, much better. So it's not always about just shooting the ball, but giving your guys high-quality chances to put the ball in the net, shooting from inside the box. So we really have been working on that over the last couple of years, and I think you've seen our goal totals rise, or maybe our shot totals have gone down a little bit.
How have you seen the defense improve from day one to now? I know there were some new parts back there when the season began.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a number of things. There's been some personnel tweaking we've had to do because of injuries. We've tactically switched some things around a little bit. We've played different formations and shapes early in the year because the defense wasn't clicking. But a couple of big things we've seen. Number one, our marking in the box, especially on crosses. Set pieces have been much, much better later in the season than it was early on. We just weren't marking tight enough. Guys were getting free. Balls were bouncing around in the box and ending up in the net. That's been a big change. The personnel back there, moving Philly from the midfield to the back line has been a huge change. He had played a lot of different positions in his club and high school careers coming into this college season. Quite frankly, we weren't sure what his best position was. We know now. It's center back, and he stepped in as a freshman, and after we lost Brock to the foot injury, he has just done an outstanding job. So I think some of the personnel changes and tweaks, the formation, and then the emphasis on our marking in the box being very deliberate and organized about who's marking who when those crosses come in. That's some of the big changes we've seen.
We talk about development. You and I have talked in other interviews about the newcomers that have come on and the impact they've had, whether you talk about Carson Kelly, Jaime Hernandez, Jeremy Munoz, a transfer in Jacob Fusion, and so on and so on. What have you seen from the newcomers, and how has their game maybe progressed from day one?
Yeah, you highlighted some very impressive players for us, guys who are new to the program who have stepped in. Jacob started out as a forward for us, came in as kind of a wing back. We tried him up top. We tried him as an outside back. We ended up playing him in the midfield for one game against Marion, and after that performance, we said problem solved. We know where he is, where he's going to stay now. He just exceeded our expectations so much for a guy who had not played in that position in the past. That's an example of someone, I think, adapting very quickly and filling a need as kind of an athletic ball winner in the middle of the field. We had a lot of good technical players, but we were missing that personality, and he's really knit the midfield together. Carson Kelly is another guy who's come in and been very impressive. He has an outstanding resume from his earlier club career. He's a name Wisconsin a lot of coaches know about, and his ability to gel with our upperclassmen quickly. He's an outstanding dribbler. He has the ability to turn at midfield, to turn players, get the ball moving forward, and he's one of the best finishers on our team. So he's not a guy that we have to tell to stop shooting. He's a guy we have to continually emphasize the importance of him finishing off chances. And sometimes around the box he tries the extra pass instead of being a little more selfish. But he's just been a great addition to our team. And I talked about Philly as well. Kind of, moved him around early on. We weren't sure what his best position was, but we could tell he should be on the field. He's doing great in training, but nothing really seemed natural. And then the injury to Brock forced us to put him back there at center back, and his first game there was outstanding, and then we knew that was the spot for him.
You've referenced this team keeping their composure despite, a number of obstacles throughout the course of the season, and a couple of guys like a Nick Hummel. When you look at offense, defense, Jacob Stemper, they bring back experience, but they bring back quality experience, and it's been quality again this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick is a guy we really rely on a ton, and he doesn't get a lot of credit because he's not the flashiest player. But what he does is work harder than anyone else. He has an engine that just never quits. So depending on our tactical plan, if it's a game where we really want to press the other team, he's the one leading the press. And we always put him in the position of the player that's going to kind of, the press is going to revolve around. He's not a guy who is the most consistent of finishers, and we all know that he needs a volume of chances. So you'll see us put him in behind over and over and over again, because we know if he gets the chances, he'll put the ball in the net. We just have to be patient and make sure we continue to put him in positions to succeed, and he scores big goals in big games. We're excited to watch him play on Wednesday. Jake Stemper is another one who's been around for a long time, been part of the college game. A little bit of a rough start to the year, but since about midway through the year, he's really picked it up and been one of our most consistent defenders for sure.
You've talked all year long about finding that consistency, finding that complete 90-minute performance. Has this team put that 90-minute performance together? Are they close? Have you been pleased with the consistency you've seen lately?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at that from two ways. I don't think we have put our best 90 minutes together, and maybe that's a little bit of a negative. Why can't we consistently do that? But at the same time, that's a positive. If we're in this position, we've won this many games. We had the best tiebreakers in the conference, which is what gave us the 1 seed. Then there's more to come, and there's another level that we can push to, both as coaches and team. We can look at that, and they understand and know, the players do, that we're not there yet, so we can continue to drive them and to motivate them and say, there is another level. Can you get there? Can you reach it?
One thing I asked one of your players last week on this show, and I want to ask you too, is one of the big changes this season has been the fact there's no overtime here in the regular season. Of course, now here in tournament play, if the game is tied after 90, a guaranteed 2 10-minute overtime periods, no golden goal any longer, a shootout thereafter if it's still tied. Do you like the change? Have you seen teams play differently, at least in the regular season, knowing that there's no overtime in the back end of 90 minutes?
I'm not sure yet. We'll give it a few years and come back to that question as to whether or not I like removing overtime. My initial reaction was yes, I like getting rid of it. I thought it would help reduce injury. Those last overtime consistently throughout the year meant that players are playing more than 90 minutes. The schedule in college soccer is so demanding with training and 2 games a week that I felt like it was really hard on the players. That being said, when you have a deep, good bench, you're able to bring guys on in those longer overtime games that do make the difference. So I think we've seen a lot of ties this year, and we can look at the rule change and maybe find a correlation there. I'm not sure. So there are some positives and there are some negatives. As of now, the jury's still out. I don't really have strong feelings about it.
Well, the beauty about winning the regular season championship for the Falcons is the fact you guys got to bye in that first round.
Yes.
And so instead of playing this past weekend, some days at least away from game action, now preparing for Wednesday. Obviously, you found out this past weekend who you're facing on Wednesday. But how do you approach those first practices, not knowing? Do you focus on you trying to tweak some things here and there? Do you focus only on the Falcons?
Well, the first few practices, as we're waiting to find out our opponent, are all about us. So there are some things we really liked that we did against Lakeland in that game. So can we emphasize those and bring those forward into the next game? Fitness was a big thing. Other teams are playing that weekend and we're not. So a lot of the times during the regular season, our training is not focused on fitness. They're getting their fitness during the games. It's more about recovery. Well, now we suddenly had this 4 or 5 day break between games. So there was a big fitness component to our trainings as well that normally isn't there during the flow of the season, knowing that we're not getting the game that other teams are. So it was those two things, on the 2 practices leading up to the games this weekend until we knew our opponent. And now the training yesterday and today will be focused on Benedictine.
You look at Sunday in the first round of the NAC men's soccer tournament. Number 3 MSOE knocked off number 6 Dominican. Number 5 Benedictine knocked off number 4 Marion. So that's why the Eagles are coming here on Wednesday for a 2 o'clock kickoff out at Fitting Field. The other semi is MSOE at Aurora. Championship game is Saturday. First time you guys saw Benedictine was back on September the 17th. That was a 3-2 Falcon win, up 2-0. Benedictine able to battle back tight. But again, the Falcons with a response. Ivan Cuellar in the 83rd. Your takeaway from that first meeting?
Benedictine's a great team. We felt like we had the game under control, and then they scored 2 goals in something like 6 minutes. And then the game was out of control, and it was back and forth, and it was anyone's game, and we came up with a big moment at the end. Ivan's an upperclassman, again, who's been there and done that, and it was a great finish and a great run from him to win that game. But that means going in, we know that it's a coin flip. We don't feel any sense of, thinking that this is going to be an easy match, because it wasn't. It was not an easy match. We know they're a great team. You talked about our run at the end of the season. They put together an outstanding run as well to get in the tournament, and then they really played a strong game against Marion, where I think maybe some outsiders looked at that game and said, Marion's home. They have 2 of the best attacking talents in the conference. Maybe looking at Marion as a team that would win there. but Benedictine pulled it out and looked very dangerous in doing so. So we know we have our work cut out for us.
When you think about the NAC men's soccer tournament, what comes to mind to you? Because I know when I think about, especially on the men's side of the NAC tournament, it just seems like it's a tournament full of upsets every year. The surprise results here and there, and nothing's a gimme.
That's the way this game is, Matt. When it's just one game and it's so low scoring, there's so much variance, anything can happen. So it's all about taking care of attention to detail and really taking advantage of the big moments in the game, the opportunities, putting the ball in the net when you have the chances, and then limiting your mistakes. So can you avoid giving them great opportunities, and then can you make the most of yours? And in this game that we play, it can be mentally and emotionally draining in those moments, but we feel confident because we have so many players who have been here and done this and been in these kind of games before and understand what it takes to win.
To feed off that, let's wrap it up on this note. What needs to happen if this Falcons team is to make a run here at this NAC Tournament Championship? What needs to happen?
Our seniors need to lead the way, just like they have been to finish the season out. They need to be an example for the younger players and show them what hard work looks like on the field. Have confidence and calmness in the way that they talk and act when things don't go our way. Continue to step up in big moments and let the younger players know that they've been here before. So we need to see the leadership from the seniors. We need to see composure in important moments. We need to limit our mistakes and then take the big chances when they come.
Well, Coach, as always, thanks a lot for your time. All the best on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Be out there at Fitting Field. It's going to be a gorgeous day weather-wise. A big matchup, number 1 Concordia against number 5 Benedictine. Kickoff, 2 o'clock. Fitting Field, a NAC tournament semifinal. When we come back here on Falcon Focus, our focus will shift to women's volleyball as they begin their journey for a tournament title. That starts Thursday here inside the John Book Fieldhouse, a semifinal. We'll talk with assistant coach Kaylee Erdman. That's next here on Falcon Focus.
Since 1978, Lutheran Church Extension Fund has had the humble privilege of supporting the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in fulfilling its mission of sharing the gospel.
Thanks to our faithful investors, we provided thousands of church workers, congregations, schools, and organizations with the resources they need to reach more people with the saving name of Christ. It's what we do.
Because our greatest joy comes from seeing LCMS Ministries and her workers thrive, we will continue to make precious resources available, both today and far into the future. It's our promise to you.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund.
We are Lutheran Church Extension Fund. We want to be part of your great and exciting work.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Falcon Focus, episode number 8 here in season number 4. And our focus now shifting to women's volleyball. And they begin their quest for a NAC Tournament Championship Thursday here inside the John Book Fieldhouse, 7 o'clock. They serve up set 1 of the best of 5 against either Lakeland or St. Norbert. And they will know in about, give or take, 12 hours as we sit here, less than that, as to who's coming here again on Thursday. Kaylee Erdman joining us here and kind of join us, part of the assistant coaching staff, and back after she was an assistant in 2018. Before that, played for the Falcons from 2014 through 2017. Kaylee, thanks for your time. And
of course.
What a time for women's volleyball. They have 19 victories, 7 defeats, have won 11 of their last 12, finishing 12-1 in conference play. Good for a tie for first with Aurora, but owning the tiebreaker, the number 1 seed. Your thoughts on the way the team's been playing this season?
Incredible. It's kind of been an up and down, it feels like. But you look at the record, like every loss that we've had has been against a really good team or like our last conference match. That team came out and played as good as they had to and showed us what we, need a little bit of work on in order to finish out the year strong. But every team that I think 4 of our 7 losses have been in 5-setters. Mm-hmm. And all teams that were receiving ranks or are currently ranked. And I mean, that has a big testament to like how battle tested this team is. And coming into the end of the year here, they've been playing their best ball. Like Saturday, I think everybody was saying like, we have never seen them play as good as they are right now. And that's the best time to play their best ball, right? Right when it matters at the end. Totally.
And I think you bring up a great point. Not that you want to go to 5 sets, but if this team has to go 5, there's no more confident team than the Falcons when it comes to 5 setters. We saw that last week against Lakeland. Let's go back the last couple of matches to kind of recap. So October 22nd was senior day. It was a nice bounce back, able to sweep St. Norbert. How important was that matchup? Tough loss the night before against Illinois Tech, but to come right back out here against a quality team and just take care of business.
Yeah, it's always really good being home, so it was nice. I mean, we did have a long night at Illinois Tech the night before, but coming in, they also had a really long night. They were in Illinois. They had an injury that affected their lineup and things like that, but we came out ready to play. It was really good to get them done in 3 sets. I know throughout conference there's been a few moments where we've been dropping sets here and there, so it was good to get a sweep out of them, and then coming into that following week, we had to win on Wednesday, and it got a little dicey. It was probably the strongest offensive game I've seen out of 2 teams collectively in a match before, and both of us were hitting upper 200s, 300s throughout the whole match, and it was quite the battle, but in that 5th set came around, we've been there before. They showed that, and we came out strong, had a really strong lead, start it, and finish out, so...
I want to spend some more time on that matchup against Lakeland because that was a thriller here inside the John Book Fieldhouse last Wednesday. 3-2, the Falcons able to come away with the win. And you talk about just intense. It was emotional. An electric atmosphere here inside the John Book Fieldhouse. So many players stepped up. And I thought that was key in that matchup was it seemed like every set somebody had their moment. It was a collection of players, not just 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's just kind of what we've been known for. I know when we think about every week, like are we going to get any weekly awards for conference or anything like that, but we are so balanced. Like everybody rises up to the occasion throughout the match, whether it be in serve receive defense, making plays, going on serving runs, getting big kills when it matters. And that game in particular, we were so spread out. Like it's really hard to defend a team like that. And Lakeland, to their advantage too, that's the same way that they are. They're very balanced as well. So it was good to see that, and you never know what's going to happen, but no matter what, in every match, you see it come out in each of our players that we have. So
you speak of weekly awards. Abby Prayfrock, the Defensive Player of the Week in the NAC this week. But you look at some of the individual totals from that Lakeland matchup. Sophia Collins, a career high at 20 kills. Macy Carfinger went off. She tied her career best with 21 kills. How good is Macy Carfinger?
She's amazing. And my favorite part about Macy is she is so humble. She's got so many good characteristics that make her such a great leader just by example. I know the girls really look up to her, and it's so nice just having her when those moments come. She doesn't get too scared of those things. Like we have her jump serve and whenever we need a little bit of spark coming from her, and she's not scared to go out and do that. So all of them do such a nice job.
As far as other performances, Sierra Lee had 34 assists, 13 digs. Erica Natsky, 25 assists, 11 digs. Let me get your thoughts on Erica and how she's developed now as that number 2 setter in the 2-setter offense.
It's actually really fun. So when I was back my first year after I was done playing, I coached the reserve team, and Erica was on that team. She was she's the only one in this program that I have already had experience with coaching, and to see her develop, I've been gone for a couple years, but coming back and having her be one of in the starting rotation, it's been awesome seeing her confidence grow throughout the year. I know that she will tell you that she's got a lot of other things going on in her life, and volleyball has just been such a nice escape for her to come with all of her friends, and there's so many fun matches that have been happening too. I know she's really enjoying her time, so good to see her step up in big moments. She's had a lot of great digs the past couple matches, good serving runs, making good decisions on her setting too, so I'm very proud of her.
Also against the Muskies, Jenna Sauce had 15 kills and 15 digs, and the freshman Mackenzie Benter had 11 kills. What have you seen from her as a freshman? All of a sudden, it seems like the last few weeks she's really stepped it up another level.
Oh, yeah. I actually used to coach up in the area where I've seen Kenzie play, so I kind of knew what she had bringing in. So every team that I think we've played against, they talk to her about, or they scout us, and they say that she's kind of like our Swiss Army knife. She's the impact player. If she goes off, they're in trouble. Like, she makes big plays when it matters. I think it was towards the end of that Lakeland match. She had a nice little wrist-away cutty shot that, again, totally fearless. Like, that she could have played it easy, could have just tipped it right over, went for the kill. So.
And what a way to end the regular season then. The Falcons were back here on Saturday and welcomed in the defending Division III national champs from UW Eau Claire, ranked 14th in the nation. Didn't just beat them, swept the blue gold. What was the story in that one? I noticed, too, that Lauren Strobel was back coming through with 9 kills and hit 444.
Yeah, she's been battling a little bit of a dislocated finger injury. However, we asked her, like, hey, you want to play? Like, it's been a while. She's like, of course I want to play. And that's just who she is. She wants to be out there competing with her friends and her teammates. And it was really nice having her back and getting that flow coming into this postseason that we're about to face in a couple days here.
Of course, the real question is Saturday was costume day. Did you see any unique costumes in and around the John Book Fieldhouse?
We had some parents that came in their old school. I think I would trick it back to the 80s. Is that what it would be? Maybe. I hope so. And then we had a Bowser. He was here early, but Bowser was a good costume.
Do you have a favorite costume from your past?
Oh boy,
Halloween.
I loved being a witch, but my favorite costume I ever was Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. I had a little basket, little doggy,
Sure.
the red slippers, everything.
Hard to believe Halloween now is behind us. It's November, and now again the run for the NAC tournament upon us. How about when you look at 26 matchups in, what would you say are the strengths of this team?
I mean, they really are so balanced. I think that is going to be our biggest strength when we face any opponents. It's really hard to scout us. A lot of times when you look at other teams, especially in our conference, middle isn't normally the spot where that's where you want to get the ball. A lot of teams are really pin heavy, and we're very different in that sense. We do put up really good block. We are really scrappy, and when we get into that defensive mode, there is no stopping us. And every match that we've had that they've all said we've played so well, it's because our defense. And even on Saturday, there were a few plays where it's like there's no shot. And it's so frustrating for other teams when you're playing against a team that really doesn't let the ball drop. It gets really hard to get a kill.
You mentioned it earlier in the interview. When you look at the non-conference slate, this Falcon team was battle-tested this regular season. Have you seen that pay off now here down the stretch where all of a sudden, maybe some tough losses early on, but that experience has only made this team better?
Totally, and those teams are very, very good that we played early on, and it's exciting to see how they're doing too, like how many different, because they play good schedules as well as we do, and now that we had a big stretch of conference, it was really nice to get a non-conference game this past weekend and kind of reset to see this is where we started the year when we were playing teams like this, and now that we're playing them again, like look how much better we are. Like we were able to really make a mark this past weekend, and I hope that we just get to continue to do that for the rest of the season here.
Well, as mentioned, you're back now. You were with the program as a player and then as a coach in 2018. How did the opportunity come about to come back, and how has the experience been so far this season?
Yeah, so I've been teaching the past couple of years and looking for a little bit of a change. I know Janelle's one of my good friends, so she told me that she was leaving and that there was probably going to be a spot open for a coach, and I didn't know of Kevin before as well. So them letting me back into the building was super great. I love being here. It's like home. I grew up going to a Lutheran grade school. I came here all the time for volleyball and basketball tournaments. That's why I decided to come here, and being back, it's just great. I enjoy the girls so much. They're all, most of them besides Erica, are new faces to me, and getting to know them and build connections with them and share my experience with them and be able to relate to them. Because it wasn't too long ago. I mean, it was a couple years ago, but I know what they're going through. You can tell when they're getting tired or frustrated, but just reminding them that there are so many cool memories and cool experiences that come from this, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Obviously, you have teaching in the blood, but when you played, did you have in the back of the mind that maybe one day you want to coach volleyball?
Oh, of course. As soon as I got out of high school, I was coaching club every single season that there was. Basketball as well, I was coaching. But, I love coaching. It's kind of a combination of the extra activities that I love with helping pass along what I've learned from everyone before me, too.
What is, in your opinion, the most challenging aspect of coaching?
Challenging aspect. Sometimes it gets a little dicey when we're trying to get everybody back on the same page. A lot of them have the same goals, and it's just tricky sometimes getting them all to see that they do have the same goals. Some people go about it a different way in order to get to that same goal, but whenever we have a little bit of trouble going on, like it's just figuring out how to get everybody back on the same page.
Mentioned you played for the Falcons from 2014 through 2017, some great years in there. What are your memories of playing for Concordia?
Honestly, the girls, it comes down to all the people that I was around. I'm friends with almost all of them. I see them all the time. Some moved away, which is sad, but all those memories that I made with them and being able to compete at this level, at the time it's like, oh, it's Division III, but no, it was a big deal. Like coming back here, I like to remind them, like, this is important. Like, you are here to make some noise, have some fun, make some memories, and hopefully lifelong relationships with the people around you.
It was neat. A couple of weeks ago, the 2016 team was inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame, the first women's volleyball team to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and rightfully so, the first women's volleyball team to qualify for the NCAA tournament. How special was it to see, former teammates, but just to be honored for what was a heck of a run there for Falcon women's volleyball.
Yeah, I mean, now that coaching is going on, everything's kind of like faded in the back of my head a little bit. So I went back and looked at our schedule and stuff and like how that year went, because it does feel like a really long time ago, but we had quite the season. I didn't even realize it. Like, I know it was the first team to go to the NCAA, which is really great, but we battled against some really tough teams, and like we went to Texas. That's crazy. We didn't get to travel anywhere, and that was the year that we went to Texas, and getting to see all their faces, a bunch, like some from Arizona and all across the country, being back in the same place and just being able to reminisce was super great.
Yeah, a team in 2016 went to the NCAA tournament, and then they did it again in 2017. And again, just laying down the foundation for what has been now for this program. So you know what it takes to win a conference tournament championship. Are you able to draw on that experience now as a coach, kind of relate that to the players?
100%. I mean, I am so excited for this group. They're so driven, so determined. They have all of the pieces that it takes to get there. And in the back of my mind, all I'm thinking about is like, I want this so badly for them, and I want them to surpass everything that has come before us, because that means that all the work that my crew did when we were here and everything after that, like, that paid off. Like, we want this program to be successful and to make new records and making their new mark on history and stuff like that. So, of course, I draw back to those last final moments. And I was even talking to Coach Chanel this past weekend about how that 2017 season, right before we went into playoffs, we took down number 9 Whitewater. And she's like, guess what happened this weekend? You guys just beat a UW team that was ranked. It's like, you're right. And guess what happened after that? So it's just kind of talking and manifesting all of that and hoping that the girls can see that too, because they're so talented.
Do you find it, and I know it's a two-way street for both teams, but do you find it difficult facing a team a second or in some cases a third time in the same year? Right? And again, you're going to potentially see St. Norbert or Lakeland, teams you just saw about a week or two ago.
Yeah, not only are they going to be repeat opponents, but that last week Lakeland was in this place, and a little bit past that, St. Norbert was here. So it is tricky, but at the same time, I think it is nice having... We know how the first time went. We know what adjustments that we need to make. We know that they're going to make adjustments based upon how we played. But it's just taking one game at a time for us and not seeing too far into the future. So tonight we're setting up a little bit of a watch party. We'll all be in probably one of the classrooms watching the game, eating some popcorn, checking out who our next opponent's going to be, fully prepared for tomorrow. And then on Thursday, come for it. Ready to go.
The NAC tournament again starts tonight. The first round action. Benedictine is at Edgewood. The winner of that matchup will go to Aurora on Thursday for a semi. But, of course, the Falcons will be locked into the Lakeland at St. Norbert matchup. Both teams battling into Pier, and then the winner will be here on Thursday for a 7 o'clock start. Let's wrap it up. Your thoughts on if this team is to win their first conference title since 2017 Conference Tournament Championship. In your opinion, what needs to happen? What's going to be key to a successful run?
I think they all just need to focus on remembering they have the same goal and not let the moment get too big. They did a really nice job of that the past week, and I'm very excited that this is the time that they're deciding to all figure it out and come together and play their best ball, really. And it just comes down to heart. Whoever wants it more is going to get it at this point, because nerves are a little bit tricky to balance and stuff like that and conquer. But as long as they can figure that out and remember that and trust in their body and their skills.
Well, Kaylee, thanks a lot for your time. All the best this week, and we'll be cheering the Falcon women volleyball team. Again, be here Thursday, 7 o'clock, either Lakeland or St. Norbert for a semifinal. Winner of that matchup will play Saturday for a championship at 7 o'clock, hopefully back here inside the John Book Fields. That's Kaylee Erdman. Thanks to John Sluska at our first segment. Best of luck to all Falcon athletics here as the fall sports seasons wind down, and thank you for watching this week's edition of Falcon Focus.